So last week, we read about how the cowherd boys became hungry and requested Krishna to do something about it. So he sent them to the Brahmins that were performing a yajna nearby. For those of you who know Vrindavan, that place where those Brahmins lived, closer to Vrindavan, but on the road to Mathura. Once you leave Vrindavan, kind of on the way there, it's out in that area where the Yamuna used to flow. So the boys went and they requested those Brahmins for some food. They even encouraged them that it was the proper time during their sacrifice to offer in charity and take prasadam, but they were neglected. The Brahmins really didn't say yes or no, but just neglected them. They're like children, cowherd boys at the sacrifice with no acknowledgement whatsoever. So we'll pick up the story from there as we go to read. First, I wanted to share a nice verse that we were meditating on this week. This was back when Lord Kapila was instructing his mother Devahuti. It's a famous verse, but it's a really nice meditation for our particular program. One of the core reasons that we do this particular style of Sangha. It's Canto 3, Chapter 25, Text 25. Satam prasangam mama virya samvido, bhavantirhit karna rasayana kata, tad josanas afya pavarga vajmani, shradharatir bhaktir anukarmishyati. In the Association of Pure Devotees, discussion of the pastimes and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and the heart. By cultivating such knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation, and thereafter he is freed, and his attraction becomes fixed. Then real devotion and devotional service begin. Jai. So we're now in March 2025, lessons 1 and 2. Samapriya, can you please pick someone to
Yes.
read for us?
Yes. Hare Krishna, everyone. That's such an enlivening verse and so encouraging. So we have to keep hearing and chanting together. That's wonderful. Okay, let's begin with Acharya. Would you like to read Acharya?
Yes, thank you.
You can begin.
Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 23, Text 13, Sarartha Darshini. Hearing what had happened, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord of the universe, simply laughed. Then he again addressed the cowherd boys, showing them the way men act in this world. Lord Krishna said, "Tell the wives of the Brahmanas that I have come here with Lord Sankarshan. They will certainly give you all the food you want, for they are most affectionate toward me, and indeed, with their intelligence, reside in me alone." Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Krishna laughed because it was not proper to show anger towards the ignorant Brahmanas. Furthermore, Krishna wanted to teach that a beggar should not become despondent, because it is the nature of begging that one is often refused. Krishna said, "Just tell the wives of the Brahmanas that Balaram and I have come, but don't tell them I am hungry, for if they hear that, these devoted ladies will become severely distressed." Cowherd boys. But how will they give us food if we do not tell them you are hungry? Krishna. Seeing that you are hungry, they will give food for us. Cowherd boys. But their husbands will prevent them. Krishna. The Brahmanas' wives have great affection for me. They will not heed their husbands' prohibitions. Since their minds dwell in me, it is only their bodies that are residing in their husband's house.
Okay. So, Acharya, there's 2 points in this section. and I thought they were so instructive. What can you tell us about Krishna's instruction or Krishna's demonstration of laughing at the situation and not becoming angry
Yeah.
at the
Yeah, that was
Brahmins?
nice. That in our preaching or even in our dealings, uh, we don't, even if someone's foolish or someone's wrong, we don't want to get angry or unnecessarily put them down. And,
Yeah, it's a fact. If you get angry at someone who is disturbed or not on a higher level of consciousness, it's useless because you're being brought into their ignorance by reacting
yeah.
in that way. I
And then
thought it
even
was
if you want to help them, if they see that you're angry, even if you want to help them, it'll be more difficult or
good,
impossible to help them if you're
very
angry
good.
at them.
Good point.
Yeah.
And what can
Something
you
else I
say?
really liked in this
Yeah,
was uh, the cowherd boys said, "Well, how will they know to give us food if we don't say we're hungry?" And Krishna said, "Oh, they'll see, they'll know." So I think that's also really nice that like the an expert servant doesn't need to be told every detail. I'm hungry. I need this. They know that, oh,
right.
this is this.
Very good.
These people, this is the Supreme Personality of God. And of course, I'm going
Sure.
to offer him food. Not
Uh,
that every single detail has to be, okay, do this, do this, do this. So I
Also,
like
we
that also.
find good point, but also we find that people who are more conscious
Yeah,
are more selfless. Someone who's absorbed in herself is not going to understand the needs of someone else,
right.
right?
Yeah, that's why, the more aware devotee, the more advanced servant will know without necessarily having to be told everything.
Good, very good point.
And if we have to be told everything, that's all right also, as long as we follow it. And then when,
Right.
and then when we become more expert, maybe we won't need every detail laid out.
Hopefully that will happen. What about the business of begging? Doesn't seem to be lucrative at all times.
That used to be in long ago in a previous yuga when I used to do book distribution. That was like a constant remembrance this past time not to be disappointed when you're not successful because I was not very good at it. I was not very expert in book distribution, but in order to, try to stay enthused and enlivened, I would remember this past time and say, okay, this is the way of begging. We're begging, please
Right.
take this book. And okay, they don't take,
Very
don't
good.
become depressed.
I think that's
I think every single person that ever went out on Sankirtan did that, thinks on this. It's almost like in his own way, there's a teaching within the lesson, within the
Yeah.
pastime. Sorry.
right. Very good. Okay. Let's go on with the next verse with Murari, with Thakur visiting with us from today, Mayapur.
Yeah, but I'm in Jamaica also.
Oh yeah, but you fooled us all with your backdrop.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. Why didn't you read?
Okay. Shima Bhagavatam 10, 23, 15 to 17, Sarasa Darshini. The court boys then went to the house where the Brahmanas' wives were staying. There the boys saw those chaste ladies sitting nicely decorated with pen ornaments. Bowing down to the Brahmana ladies, the boys addressed them in all humility. The court boys said, obeisances unto you, O wives of the learned Brahmanas. Kindly hear our words. We have been sent here by Lord Krishna, who is passing by, not far from here. He has come a long way with the court boys and Lord Balaram tending the cows. Now he is hungry, so some food should be given for him and his companions. He shall not talk about it. Thakur. Upon hearing the name of Krishna, the Brahmana's wives fainted in bliss. To revive them, the boys explained why they had come to their houses, beginning in a gentle way and ending boldly. The boys said, Krishna and Balaram have come a long way. End of quote. Seeing the wives becoming very attentive upon hearing this, the boys decided to inspire them further by mentioning that Krishna and Balaram wanted some food. The court boy said, Krishna and his friends are suffering from hunger. Boy.
Very good. Okay, so do you want to continue reading?
It's the same verses.
Oh, it's the same verse.
Okay,
Go on.
sure, continue. Okay, so Krishna book, Srimad Bhagavatam 10.23, 13 to 17. When the boys saw that the Brahmanas would not speak to them, they became very disappointed. They then returned to Lord Krishna and Balaram and explained everything that had happened. After hearing their statements, the Supreme Personality began to smile. He told them that they should not be sorry, sorry, for not, sorry, I get a little too hot.
Do you want us to go on and then you could read again after? You okay?
Yes, you can. Let me get a little hot so you can go on.
Okay. So, okay, do you want, okay, Manvantara, do you want to go on from here? Thank you, Murari. Just, we'll ask you to read after.
They then returned to Lord Krishna and Balaram and explained everything what had happened. After hearing their statements, the Supreme Personality began to smile. He told them that they should not be sorry for being refused by the Brahmanas, because that is the way of begging. He convinced them that while one is engaged in collecting or begging, one should not think that he will be successful everywhere. He may be unsuccessful in some places, but that should not be cause for disappointment. Lord Krishna then asked all the boys to go again, but this time to the wives of those Brahmanas engaged in sacrifices. He also informed them that these wives were great devotees. They are always absorbed in thinking of me. Go there and ask them for some food in my name and the name of Balaram, and I am sure that they will deliver you as much food as you desire. Carrying out Krishna's orders, the boys immediately went to the wives of the Brahmanas. They found the wives sitting inside their house. They were very beautifully decorated with ornaments. After offering them all respectful obeisances, the boys said, Dear mothers, please accept our humble obeisances and hear our statement. May we inform you that Lord Krishna and Balaram are nearby. They have come here with the cows, and you may know also that we have come here under their instructions. All of us are very hungry. Therefore, we have come to you for some food. Please give us something to eat for Krishna, Balaram, and ourselves.
So they seemingly, because they were speaking gently first and then boldly, the wives seem a little bit receptive. So what does that tell us about in our own lives and in our own preaching, about preaching to those who are receptive as opposed to preaching to those who are not so receptive?
Right off the cuff, I mean, I would say that, you start out really humble and kind of like methodical in a way in the beginning. And then as you get more confidence and with more self-realizations, you just kind of just can smash it, I guess. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, that's
maybe
true.
they developed some confidence at the end. It could just be a didactic thing too. Like the boys saw that the ladies were attentive to what they were saying. They started out pretty quiet and humble, and then when they saw how attentive they were just like, yeah, and we're hungry.
Okay,
happening.
that's good.
And so of course these are mothers. They know how boys are, so
Good.
they knew what was happening.
And you're correct that they were receptive. And when someone is receptive, you naturally get more confident. So that's a good point. Thank you. Anyone else have something? Oh, Midoriya. What do you got? Leela?
Yeah, it's just hard to unmute.
I'm sorry.
I was wondering why they said they were hungry when Krishna told them not to say that?
I don't know. Anyone know why? Well, Krishna told them not to beg on their behalf, right? On Krishna and Balaram's behalf. Yeah, that's a good question. Anyone
Actually,
knows?
it's interesting that,
Oh.
go ahead, Acharya.
Sorry, you say.
I think Vishwanath Chakravarti mentions why in I can't remember now this or the previous his commentary. Didn't he say in order to encourage them, or I'm trying to look. No, the next one. Seeing the wives becoming very attentive upon hearing this, the boys decided to inspire them further by mentioning that Krishna and Balaram wanted some food. So they were sort of, thinking on the run there. They said, "Oh, they're so attentive. We weren't going to mention it, but since they're so attentive and so helpful, let's bring it up."
Which is just what Samapriya and Manvantara were just talking about it, but they didn't really connect it to the Brahmins' wives. That's exactly how I read it also. When they
What?
got it, they saw that these wives were enthusiastic and attentive to what they were saying. It says here they started in a gentle way. Oh, we're here, Balaram and Krishna come from a long way. And as soon as the wives heard and they saw their reaction that Krishna, when Balaram, and then they decided, well, we're coming for food anyway, so why not?
Yeah.
It's like a person who's enthusiastic. You give them one book and you see they're really, well, here's another one and another one, and here's a set. You can keep going. Another point that's also there, however, is that Srila Prabhupada put it into a more smooth transition. May we inform you that Lord Krishna and Balaram are nearby. They have come here with the cows, and you may know that we have come here under their instructions. All of us are very hungry. So they kind of smoothed it off there. Srila Prabhupada did it a little differently.
We've come under their instruction. So
Yeah, they
is
kind
that
of
going against what Krishna said? When he said, don't say that you're coming from, but actually they say that you're coming from us, but not that they're hungry. What was that
Well,
was a little confusing.
The reason was because he didn't want the mothers, the wives of the Brahmins, to become despondent and think, "Oh my God, they're hungry." He didn't want that. That wasn't the exact emotion that he was trying to solicit in them. But it came up. They just kind of got immediately interested and enthusiastic to supply food when they heard it.
And also on what you were talking earlier, that they're mothers and these are little children, their natural instinct would be to just feed them, and so they in one sense wouldn't have had to been asked even, because that would have been their next step. Okay, let me bring you some prasadam.
It's interesting too, because it's not really described how involved they were in assisting their husbands. It seems like they're sitting in the house now and the husbands are performing yagyas, but then Krishna explains later that he wants them to assist their husbands in that endeavor.
Well, they had to cook. They had to prepare everything behind the scenes. They got all the paraphernalia
and
ready.
The boys had already described that it was a proper time in their practice and the steps that they were taking. It was the proper time to allow for charity and take food.
Okay. Anyone else? Oh, okay, good. Let's go on with the next one.
Okay.
And Madhurya, would you like to read this? Next two slides, because they also are related.
Okay. So, the wives of the Brahmins were always eager. Okay, this is 10:23, 18 to 21. The wives of the Brahmins were always eager to see Krishna, for their minds had been enchanted by descriptions of him. Thus, as soon as they heard that he had come, they became very excited. Taking along in large vessels the 4 kinds of foods, full of fine taste and aroma, all the ladies went forth to meet their beloved, just as rivers flow forward toward the sea. Although their husbands, brothers, sons, and other relatives tried to forbid them from going, their hope of seeing Krishna, cultivated by extensive hearing of his transcendental qualities, won out. Along with the river Yamuna, within a garden decorated with buds of Ashoka trees, they caught sight of him strolling along in the company of the cowherd boys with his elder brother Balaram. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Due to conjugal feelings, the wives of the Brahmanas went to meet Krishna as if he were their paramour. In order to avoid censure for their conduct, Sukadeva Goswami compares them to rivers flowing naturally towards the sea because they had already heard extensively about Krishna.
Go on reading.
Immediately upon hearing this, the wives of the Brahmanas became anxious for Krishna and Balaram. These reactions were spontaneous. They did not have to be convinced of the importance of Krishna and Balaram. Immediately upon hearing their names, they became very anxious to see them. Being advanced by thinking of Krishna constantly, they were performing the greatest form of mystic meditation. All the wives then became very busily engaged in filling up different pots with nice foodstuff. Due to the performance of the sacrifice, the various food was all very palatable. After collecting a feast, they prepared to go to Krishna, their most lovable object, exactly in the way rivers flow to the sea. For a long time, the wives had been anxious to see Krishna. However, when they were preparing to leave home to go see him, their husbands, fathers, sons, and relatives asked them not to go, but the wives did not comply. When a devotee is called by the attraction of Krishna, he does not care for bodily ties. The women entered the forest of Vrindavan on the bank of the Yamuna, which was verdant with vegetation and newly grown vines and flowers. Within that forest, they saw Krishna and Balaram engaged in tending the cows along with their very affectionate boyfriends.
So this particular topic about the wives really, we had so many discussions about it because it reminds you of yourself when you become a devotee. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah,
Prabhupada says here.
That's what struck me as well. It hit home, let's say,
Yeah.
because it's, Prabhupada says, or in the commentary it says that when you get the attraction to Krishna, then these bodily ties don't stop you. You go beyond them. So that brought me to thinking about my situation back
Sure.
in when I met Prabhupada,
Good.
that I really wanted to go forward and ask for initiation and everything, but I was stopped by the family. And so that's always hung over my head that I was thinking about Mati. She just kind of left. She had the strength to do that, and I wish I had just
Well, you're here.
not
here.
worried about that, and just go ahead and do what I should have done.
But you're here still, Madhurya.
Yeah, I'm still here.
You're here.
Anyway.
And the granddaughter is Prabhupada's more affectionate
Well,
to the
I don't think of him as my grandfather. I think of him as my father because
Okay, well, that's good too. He's everything to you.
He's that to me because that's how I came and that's how I met him. I associated with him. So, but I feel that that family, the fear of going against the family really messed me up there.
I think we can even take the analogy of family and apply it in a way to other obstacles within ourselves. I mean, this is family members, but as one progresses in spiritual life, there are always these obstacles and different kinds of considerations that sometimes come before spontaneously doing it in Krishna consciousness, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
It's a profound subject matter, definitely. But you know, whatever happens, we have Vega and Vajra. Just 1 second, Vajra first, then Vega. Whatever happens is the best thing for us. You know, it really, really is. And you, Madhurya, are so beloved. You're my little sister, and you're not going anywhere from Prabhupada's lotus feet. And everyone knows that service that you're doing. So please do not lament, because you make everyone cry. Madhurya, are you there? She turned off her thing. Okay. Vajra?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, now. Okay, we're going to go on now with Vajra. You have something to say?
Hare Krishna, Dandavat everybody. This is the pastime we discuss every year in the parikrama. This pastime very important.
Mm.
The wives had the Purvarag. They had heard
Oh.
about Krishna
Mm.
from everybody. So but they had not seen Krishna. But they were always discussing about, hearing about Krishna. So now suddenly the boys are coming and say, oh, Krishna is here. That's their attraction grew. That, oh, Krishna is here, let's go. This is what we wanted. Just like Rukmini had heard from about Krishna. And she sent a Brahman right away because she had not seen Krishna, but heard about him. So she sent a Brahman to bring him. Otherwise, I'm gonna, he has to come. So that's what it is. Second thing is that, I'm sorry, I'm going on. Second thing is that Krishna already knew. Krishna had arranged these pastimes for the sake of he wanted to perform these pastimes for the bribes of the Brahmanas, because Krishna being omnipotent, omniscient, he knew that they will get attracted. This is pastime was arranged by Krishna.
You mean he knew that they were already attracted?
Right.
Right? Because
Yeah.
that
Mhm.
Purvarag had grown in their hearts. So this was a
Yeah.
blessing upon them. That yes, you come. And I also appreciate the brief description, but I allowed my mind and meditation to go into it as they left the area where the Brahmins were performing. It says they went out to the forest, and in a forest of ashok trees. Off in the
Right.
distance, you can almost see them through the trees and in the forest, which we read about earlier. Now they're seeing Krishna and Balaram and the cows. And oh, what a beautiful view it must have been.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Vega?
Yeah, I just, when Dhruva Maharaj Prabhu said that we have other obstacles that aren't family members, but within ourselves, just today, they had the cleaning at the temple. I had it on my calendar. I've been hearing it for weeks. I was planning to go. My nose is running and it's kind of cold outside. And I'm like, oh, my body, my health, just like a demon. I didn't go.
Not a demon.
You're not a demon.
That can be
I didn't go.
practical.
How many times did you clean the temple up until this date? You know, you've done it many, 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 many years. So, you know, let the other people do it. I don't know. I felt the same kind of guilt. What can be done? You know.
Right. Okay, that's all.
Hare Krishna.
Sorry.
Anyone else? No. Okay, we'll go on. Thank you, Vega. Nanda. Nandaji, you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, nice.
Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter 23, verses 22 and 23, and this is from Saratha Darshini. His complexion was dark blue and his garments golden. Wearing a peacock feather, colored minerals, sprigs of flower buds, and a garland of forest flowers and leaves, he was dressed up like a dramatic dancer. He rested one hand upon his shoulder, upon the shoulder of a friend, and with the other twirled a lotus. Lilies graced his ears, his hair hung down over his cheeks, and his lotus-like face was smiling. O ruler of men, for a long time those Brahmin ladies had heard about Krishna, their beloved, and his glories, and had become the constant, and his glories had become the constant ornaments of their ears. Indeed, their minds were always absorbed in him. Through the apertures of their eyes, they now forced him to enter within their hearts. and they embraced him within for a long time. In this way, they finally gave up the pain of separation from him, just as sages give up the anxiety of false ego by embracing their innermost consciousness.
Go on to this slide now.
This is the
from
same
Krishna
topic.
book.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is from Krishna book. Now, same subject. They began to embrace Krishna to their heart's content, and the distress of separation was mitigated immediately. They were just like great sages who, by their advancement of knowledge, merge into the existence of the Supreme. As the super soul living in everyone's heart, Lord Krishna could understand their minds. They had come to him despite all the protests of their relatives, fathers, husbands, brothers, and all the duties of household affairs. They came just to see him who was their life and soul. They were actually following Krishna's instruction in Bhagavad Gita. One should surrender to him, giving up all varieties of occupation and religious duties. The wives of the Brahmins actually carried out the instruction of the Bhagavad Gita in total.
Hmm. Okay, so what can you tell us about these verses?
Well, could you put up the first slide, please, Prue? Sarantha Darshini one? Because I was struck in a couple of places by think. Anyway,
Take your time.
just the point that we've been making throughout this Bhagavatam study is that they had just heard about Krishna. They hadn't even seen him, just like Bhadra had said, and Acharya also said too, just like Rukmini, that they just by hearing, and that's just emphasizes how important the hearing about Krishna is. And but I also was struck by the next sentence. Through the apertures of their eyes, they now forced him to enter within their hearts. So what was the force? The force was the force of their love. And so Krishna was forcibly attracted by their love, and therefore they were able to embrace him for a long time within their hearts. And I just thought that was quite poetic and beautiful and revealing also. And then this last sentence, in this way they finally gave up the pain of separation from him, just as sages give up the anxiety of false ego by embracing their innermost consciousness. Now, I have no idea what that feels like, giving up the anxiety of false ego by embracing the innermost consciousness. But it definitely sounds very attractive, doesn't it?
You're great. Let's do it. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Okay, it looks like that's beautiful. Okay, so do you have something else?
Oh, and then just another comment. It doesn't necessarily pertain just to this slide, but on the other slides too, and the upcoming slides, it's impressive. And Dhruva Maharaj Prabhu had mentioned it briefly about how Srila Prabhupada expresses it in the same verses from the Bhagavatam and the same commentary by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, but he expresses it in a way that's I'm going to use the term more digestible for this Western audience. You know, these concepts of the separation of men and women and the concepts of the woman's duties, et cetera, et cetera. But when Srila Prabhupada expresses it, he expertly expresses in a way that, you know, better for our understanding and more palatable for us to comprehend or try to comprehend it. That's all. Hare Krishna.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. Very good. Let's go on. Sorry.
As mentioned a little bit a few weeks ago, when the Kumbh Mela was on, we were watching that. And it's interesting here that Prabhupada's pointing out, as Nanda just said, not only for Westerners, but very practically, they were actually following Krishna's instructions in Bhagavad Gita. One should surrender to him, giving up all varieties of occupation and religious duties. The wives of the Brahmins actually carried out the instructions of Bhagavad Gita in total. Whereas in the Kumbh Mela, they have these people that are tyagis. They don't wear any clothes. They're living in the Himalayas. They wear ash on their bodies. And they're all respected by everybody, by the millions of pilgrims who go there because of their surrender and giving up material things and trying to live a spiritual life. People appreciate that. But it's amazing the insight that Srila Prabhupada and our Gaudiya tradition have, the Vaishnava Sampradayas, understanding that anyone from any walk of life can attain perfection and surrender in total. I mean, just like Nanda mentioned in her brief little statement, these were women 5,000 years ago. They weren't even seen by the sun, they'll say later. That they were hidden in society, practically speaking. And here they are being seen as the topmost yogis. It's quite fascinating. It's a really nice point. Somebody else had their hand raised? Or maybe it's just a comment.
There is, not that I know where it is, but there is some section in the
Yeah,
display
comments.
where you can put your
Yeah.
hand, you press it, and then your hand goes up. It's somewhere there. Do you want to tell them where it is? I have no
I
idea.
think you have to press the participant sign, don't you, or something?
Well, anyway, if you can do that, then you'll be sure not to be missed. But
On my computer, if you bring your cursor down to the bottom of the screen and then all the different things come up, even your mute and unmute or your video or your
Yeah.
video. And then there's on my computer, everyone, there's a reaction button and you press
react.
the reaction
I
button.
see.
And you get
Right.
various things where you could raise your hand or put a heart up or et cetera, et cetera. So
Oh,
for
here's-
me, it's react button.
Yeah, I see it too. Okay. Okay, there's
Okay. Thanks,
Vega
Nanda.
using the react button. And Budget, did you find that? It's a react button next to the chat because you did write something on the chat. Now, right next to it, there's
Yeah.
react.
Yeah, I
So-
found it. I found
Okay,
it.
so if you want to say something and to make sure that I won't miss it, try to put that button on so we can hear what you have to say. Okay. All right, let's go on. Chetamayi, would you like to read for us, my darling?
Dandava pranams to all the devotees. It's great to be with you.
Haribo.
Srimad Bhagavatam 10, 23, 24, and 25, Sarata Darshini. Lord Krishna, who witnesses the thoughts of all creatures, understood how those ladies had abandoned all worldly hopes and come there simply to see him. Thus he addressed them as follows, with a smile upon his face. Lord Krishna said, "Welcome, O most fortunate ladies. Please sit down and make yourselves comfortable. What can I do for you? That you have come here to see me is most appropriate." Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, seeing the ladies in such a state, standing stunned with the plates of food in their hands, Krishna, the witness of everyone's thoughts, began laughing and spoke. Krishna addressed the wives of the Brahmanas who were endowed with the greatest prema in a similar manner that he addressed the gopis who came for the rasa dance. Krishna said, "Your coming is all glorious, and you are very fortunate. Out of desire to see me, you have overcome many obstacles to come here. But I cannot repay you in any way. So what can I do for you? I can simply remain your debtor. Please rest here for some time and take my darshan."
Okay, so Krishna is witnessing the thoughts of everyone. And what do you think about this?
He knows they're achieving the perfection of their existence. This is the perfection to have darshan, direct darshan of Krishna. And even though they're standing there, they're ready to do this service, they're so dumbfounded by being in his presence. They're not quite sure how to proceed. So he says, just sit down, make yourself comfortable and enjoy the darshan. And we may not give it that much, ascribe that much value to it, but it's mind-blowing how fortunate it is for anyone to have direct darshan.
That's totally wonderful. Anything else? There was something else that I was thinking about in this verse. I'm trying to remember. It seems like a lot of the things that we're going to be covering in this verse, purport in the next one, that we as devotees, when we became devotees and we were drawn to Krishna, have actually experienced in our own lives in some way. So do you see any of that there, Chaita?
I'm not quite understanding the question.
Sam, you could have elaborated a little bit. With leaving home, going against parents or friends' suggestions when we first became devotees. You know,
Yeah.
kind of
We were doing
pushing
a lot.
pushing the limits a little bit beyond the end of the box.
Absolutely. Understood. Thank you, Dhruva. Yes, yes, Sama. It's about that verse 647 from the Bhagavad Gita, which says that the topmost yogi is, I'm paraphrasing, the topmost yogi is one who meditates on me continually. And these wonderful wives have been thinking about Krishna and thinking about him, and all of a sudden, it's manifest physically in front of them. So we also have to have that kind of intensity, that we're willing to stop thinking about meditating on so many other things, so many material assets in our lives. None of that really holds a candle to our relationship with Krishna. So
Nice.
they're realizing the fulfillment of that by having him right in front of them. I mean, that's all that's required. You just and he's saying that's all that's required too. You just sit down here, be with me, and there's no way I can repay you. Just be with me.
But that took a lot to get to that point. That took their complete focus, desire, hearing. It took a lot for them to get to the point of where they were able to take.
Okay, so I just heard this quote from the Dalai Lama, which says, "Your success indicates that you have." It's an indication. It's a barometer of how much you have given up to achieve that success.
Very good. Yeah, yitam papadante. As they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Perfect.
That's the great verse that goes. Thank you for reminding me.
That's really nice. Thank you. All right. Do you want to read the next one? It's a change of topic a teeny bit, but not much.
Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:23-26. Saratra Darshini. Certain expert personalities who can see their own true interest render unmotivated and uninterrupted devotional service directly unto me, for I am most dear to the soul. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments, though the wives were full of the highest prem, fulfilling their desires now would not nourish the ras. And without nourishing the rasa, the pastimes would not be as relishable. Though Krishna was moved and controlled by their prema, suddenly within his mind, his Leela Shakti, pastime potency, manifested her influence to bring on a mood of Aishwarya, the majestic mood of showing himself as God, which caused Krishna to send them home. Although Krishna's opulence, Aishwarya, does not tend to manifest in the presence of personalities who have pure ecstatic love for him, still, for the purpose of keeping the pastimes perfect, it became manifest to increase the eagerness of their feeling of separation and unalloyed love. Subduing Krishna's rati, it brought out his discrimination, and thus he spoke in 2 verses, according to the mood of Aishwarya.
This is really a sublime section. So
he's stirring the pot, whatever is required to stir the pot and create this explosive drama. He says, okay, I'm going to show them a little of my glory and splendor, and that is going to precipitate so many relishable feelings for everybody in the vicinity.
Yeah, for everybody. That was it. This is more than just the wives. This whole
Yes.
thing is a humongous lesson for the social order. So? Do you have anyone have something to say about this? Because we're just actually entering to a whole other beautiful thing that this is part of.
Acharya,
Everything will become
any comment from Acharya? He actually wrote a nice forum topic on how Krishna gave these same instructions to the gopis. So this purport actually explains the difference between this pastime and that pastime. Acharya, are you with us still? I don't see you.
I see he's right
Yeah,
there.
Oh,
yeah, I'm
okay.
here.
What's your understanding of that?
Just the parallels between them and the similarities and the differences are super instructive and really interesting, and I think especially relevant. Krishna does many things at once, like here, Vishwanath Chakravarti is saying, "Oh, Krishna is doing this to increase the rasa, to make the rasa more tasteful and make the whole pastime more successful." But it's also super instructive for those of us who are not on that level but aspiring to it, to remember and understand the Aishwarya also, and the discrimination and all those things. So that, sort of in general, that's how I'm thinking about it. That he's doing many things. He's increasing the sweetness of the pastime, but he's also teaching those of us who are not like the Yagyapatnis what to speak of, like the gopis, things that we need to know also.
Nice.
Vajra has something to say.
Yeah.
Thank you, Acharya. Vajraji.
Because he wants to embrace Gopi, the wives of the Brahmanas, but his Aishwarya Shakti is stopping him because he's here to perform the pastimes. And the wives of the Brahmanas they are married, they are older, they are in Mathura, while the gopis are from Vrindavan. So here his Aishwarya Shakti is stopping him not to embrace them. That's what.
Okay, so in the next verse, let's go on reading, because it's going to
No,
be.
let's stay right here for a
Isn't
minute,
that doesn't
because
it have to do with the same topic?
not
Because
really.
we're getting the social order of things.
That's all within this.
Oh, okay. So when Krishna comes, you want to he comes to establish social order, establish religious principles. So this is an opportunity for him also to establish the social order and religious principles. After all, he was the one who set it up in the first place. So, and before we go talking about what the relationship with Krishna and the gopis, the wives here and the way he's dealing with the wives, also another point is that he is establishing social order, and social order and etiquette. It would be inappropriate, and therefore it would destroy the ras.
I think that's the point that Bhadra's making.
Yeah.
That these were not, isn't it, Bhadra? That these, I'm fascinated by the way his internal potencies are working.
Yeah.
Let's go through it a little closer here. Though the wives were full of the highest prema, and we know that Krishna is controlled by prema, it's his nature, fulfilling their desires now would not nourish the ras. And why not? Without nourishing the rasa, the pastimes would not be relishable. In other words, there's something in this environment which doesn't nourish their coming together in intimacy at this time, place, and circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
So his Leela Shakti, the pastime potencies, manifested her influence to bring about a mood of Aishvarya in him. And it mentions down here, it actually subdued his rati. His attraction for them was subdued by the Leela Shakti, and which caused a mood of Aishvarya in him.
Yes.
And therefore he's thinking, Paritanaya sadhanam, vinashaya taduskritam, dharma samstarpanathaya. This means that one of the purposes of his advent is to establish dharma. And there was a difference in society, even though everybody says, oh, we're not on the bodily platform of life. there is a difference between the gopis who were cowherd girls in a village and these aristocratic women who were wives of Brahmins. And we'll read later, some of you liked this point in one of the later purports, where it says that the people in general would not be happy if we got together because it's just too much of a stretch. Whereas with the girls, it's often brought up that they're of the same social status as Krishna. They're gopis, he's a gopa. So therefore they're correct together.
And their children, and their children.
And their children, and
Their
these
children,
ladies,
which is another
these
safeguard.
ladies were older, they were more aristocratic. So I thought it was really insightful to see how Vishwanath understands these different energies working in Krishna's heart. Although Krishna's opulence, Aishvarya, does not tend to manifest in the presence of personalities who have pure ecstatic love for him, like Mother Yasoda. His Aishvarya Shakti doesn't manifest like that. Audra, did you have more to say? Your hand's still up.
No, that was a point
Okay.
you made very clearly. Thank you.
Okay. Sama?
Yeah, I was just concerned about the social order.
Sure.
I was
That's,
really
that's Leela Shakti. That's what's
yeah.
happening.
because the Lord comes to establish religious principles. And then before we get into why he danced with the gopis and all that, and how the bodies of the gopis were there, but they danced with him in the spiritual, with their spiritual bodies. That's a different discussion. But he, in this pastime, as Bhadra and my husband were describing, it was inappropriate. He came to establish religious principles and the social order, which is, we see in the world today, the social order, there's no order. And unless people are established in their social order, it's difficult for them to continue on doing it. There's masses, there's confusion. Acharya. And then, Thakur, you're next. Acharya.
Thakur Murari had his hand up first.
Okay, Thakur.
Okay, so I thought about it too, that the sense that usually wives don't leave their husbands to go see, a young boy or a young
they
man.
don't.
They don't usually. And as I said before, that those wives are not usually seen in public. The other, it said that Prabhupada's wife, she took a taxi or they were carrying palanquin. So usually they're not usually seen in public. Also, like a previous, when we said it with the gopis and when Krishna stole the garments, there are certain activities that I think designed to be done in a certain Leela. So we're saying that. So you notice, for example, the different interaction with the wives and the gopis and Krishna and the wives and Krishna, because we're saying that usually wives don't go see young men. And it's just saying also that Krishna did not, they were saying that establishing his Aishwarya propensity at that time would sort of lose some of the essence. So as I said before, usually a certain type of activity designed to happen at a certain time. Maybe, make the Leela a little bit sweeter or something, but that's my take on it. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. That's good. Okay, so
Acharya?
I have Acharya. Right.
Yeah, I also like there's a little bit of, I don't know if this is the right word, but like kind of sleight of hand going on here, because Krishna is controlled by his devotees. These devotees, Yagyapatnis, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, they have the highest prema. So if Krishna is controlled by his devotees and these topmost devotees want to enjoy with him, like the gopis, then by that rule, he should do it. But so he doesn't refuse it, but by his Leela Shakti, it sort of comes in from the side in order to prevent it, but without interfering with that Krishna's principle of being controlled by his devotees. Am I making sense?
Yes. No, it's exactly what was described.
It also takes time.
Sure.
It also takes their time. The element is time.
And we'll see that they're not left forlorn.
Right.
when he sends them back, he gives them a specific instruction and explains how their love will simply increase.
Oh, and the verse that's coming is magnificent. It's an instruction for all people for all time.
Yes, yes.
Badra, could you turn off your hand now? I don't know how to do that. You probably press it. Good. Perfect. So that, because then we think we want to have some. Vega, it's your turn to read. Would you like to read? When we get back to the.
Sure, I can read.
And then Badra, you read after.
Also, before you read Vega, everybody might not be able to read. What is your quote there that you said? Your point?
I just said that they did control him. They forced him to enter through their eyes.
All right. Sorry. Ultimate
And at one
defeat.
point,
Wait,
yeah,
go ahead. Swarga's saying something too.
yeah, at one point it said
Say it
that
loud.
Krishna owned their intelligence, not the body, and so there was no leaving of, they were not left aside at all.
Right.
I just saw the word.
Was there and understood.
Yeah, perfect. Where are we? You put the thing back on.
Okay, we're at the next verse.
Where
Okay.
intelligence is used, right there.
Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:23-27, Sarartha Darshini. It is only by contact with the self that one's vital breath, intelligence, mind, friends, body, wife, children, wealth, and so on are dear. Therefore, what object can possibly be more dear than one's own self? Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. To inspire them with intelligence, Krishna uses logic to pacify the Brahmana's wives. It is because of contact with the self that one's vital breath, intelligence, mind, friends, body, wife, children, and wealth are dear. What can be more dear than the self? Another reading of Krishna's statement, but actually I, the Paramatma, the inner seer, am dearer than one's body, sons, husband, and family.
Going to the next verse. The
Okay.
next slide is the same.
Krishna book, Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter 23, verses 24-27. Krishna welcomed them with the following words. My dear wives of the Brahmanas, you are all very fortunate and welcomed here. Please let me know what I can do for you. Your coming here, neglecting all the restrictions and hindrances of relatives, fathers, brothers, and husbands in order to see me, is completely befitting. One who does this actually knows his self-interest, because rendering transcendental loving service unto me without motive or restriction is actually auspicious for the living entities. Lord Krishna here confirms that the highest perfectional stage of the conditioned soul is surrendered to him. One must give up all other responsibilities. This complete surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the most auspicious path for the conditioned soul, because the Supreme Lord is the supreme objective of love. Everyone is loving Krishna ultimately, but realization is according to the advancement of his knowledge. One comes to understand that his self is the spirit soul, and the spirit soul is nothing but a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the Supreme Lord is the ultimate goal of love, and thus one should surrender unto him. This surrender is considered auspicious for the conditioned soul. Our life, property, home, wife, children, house, country, society, and all paraphernalia which are very dear to us are expansions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the central object of love because he gives us all bliss, expanding himself in so many ways according to our different situations, namely bodily, mental, or spiritual.
Wow. So there's two sentences. Pati, could you put it back on the words, please? We need to have the words in front. Lord Krishna here confirms. Read that first sentence and then the last sentence.
Lord Krishna here confirms that the highest perfectional stage of the conditioned soul is surrendered to him. And the last sentence,
Yeah.
he is the central object of love because he gives us all bliss, expanding himself in so many ways according to our different situations, namely bodily, mental, or spiritual.
Wow. So tell me something about those two. First of all, Lord Krishna confirms that the highest perfection is to surrender, and it might look different for different people. Well, what do you think about that?
Well, what I actually thought of while reading this is how, like in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that the different ways that he's manifest within the world. And a week or so ago, I went to the Springs, and when I came back, I happened to see my next door neighbor lady standing outside. They're Jehovah's Witnesses. And how are you? And I said, oh, I'm good. I just got back from the Springs, and I was happy because I saw what I don't see often, needlefish. They're a little rare to see, and I was happy. And I told her I saw 9 needlefish. and she said, isn't it wonderful to see nature? Like anything you see in nature reminds you that the Lord is within. And I told her, yes. And I was just reading this morning, and whatever it was something about seeing Krishna within every living thing, within everything. And so we were able to find a common ground, even though she doesn't know about Krishna and his flute playing and his peacock feathers and all of Vrindavan, but that Krishna is manifest through his different energies, and all these things that are dear to us because of him. That's what I thought of.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Anyone else have something to say about this? Oh, Bhadra. And then also, and Thakur. And Swargo, did you want to read also after these two?
Say yes.
I think I'm just going to listen today.
Okay, fine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Bhadra, why don't you comment, and
Yeah.
then you can go on reading after Thakur.
It's interesting that what people don't know what is the self-interest. We think the self-interest is everything, family members, wealth, everything. But Krishna here is present. What is the self-interest of all individual? To serve him and connect with him. That is a self-interest.
Great point.
Interesting point.
Wonderful. Even though sometimes it doesn't feel like that, right? When everything is being taken away from us, we think, oh,
Yeah.
what is that? But it is our self-interest. We have to believe Krishna. Thank you. Thakur?
Yes, so it is said that, I think there was a statement that was said that the body is dear to oneself. In other words, there is a song, he's saying the greatest love of self is the greatest love. None of those singers, yes. But technically it's on line because self is a part of the super self. So the body is dear to oneself. So it is said there, so those attachments, your family, your friends, your wealth, those come from Krishna too. But I said that you should remember that, yes, those come from Krishna, yes, but your attraction, although they're Krishna expansions, but you should not be so much attached to those expansions, rather attached to Krishna. So that's my reading.
Yeah, and we have to be careful that those other attractions, are we attracted to their soul, or are we attracted to our relationship in the bodily concept of life, which is often the case with our family. We're so integrated with it.
Yes.
So that's a touch that gets right down to the touchy thing. Where is our attachment actually? If we practice being attached to Krishna, then we will be attached to our friends and family in a spiritual way. in an eternal way. And that's as conditioned souls, that's very necessary for us to practice, right? Okay. All right,
Yes.
yeah,
We
yes.
don't, sir, we don't want to be hard-hearted and saying, okay, we're going to love God alone, and we don't want to be too attached to our family
Right.
members and those attachments. So there's balancing, knowing that it is said, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, soul, and mind, and thy neighbor as thyself. So it's a top-down approach. So loving the Lord
Right,
first,
good. A top down.
everything comes after.
Prabhupada
Yes.
said that, I think we mentioned it here one time, that someone said, is it okay to love my children, or how do I? Yes, but love Krishna first. If we love Krishna first, then we see everything in the right perspective. It's not we just love Krishna and nobody else. That's not real love.
He actually pointed out, wasn't it, that if you love Krishna, you'll love your children better.
Oh yeah, that was it. That was it. If you love Krishna, you'll love everyone better.
Right.
It's very important. Thank you. All right. So, Baju, did you read? Prabhu, you want to read?
Yeah, I can read. Thank you.
Okay.
Dhanvat everybody. Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 23rd chapter, text 28-29, Sarath Darshini. You should then return to the sacrificial arena, because your husbands, the learned Brahmanas, are householders and need your assistance to finish their respective sacrifices. The wives of Brahmanas replied, O Almighty One, please do not speak such a cruel words. Rather, you should fulfill your promise that you always reciprocate with your devotees in kind. Now that we have attained your lotus feet, we simply wish to remain here in the forest, so we may carry upon our heads the garlands of the tulsi leaves that fall from your lotus feet. We are ready to give up all material relationships. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Here the Brahmana's wives speak the same line that gopis, Krishna's Param Premi Bhaktas, said at the beginning of the Ras dance, when Krishna told them to go home as well. Bhagavatam 10:29-31. The Brahmana's wife said, O all-powerful Lord, you should not speak such cruel words. The Chandogya Upanishad 8:15 says, Nasapunar avartate. One who enters the spiritual world never returns to the material world of birth and death. This should make your words true, such as Ye athama prapadyante tam satha bhajamyaham. If one surrenders unto me, I will reward him. And those who surrender unto me can easily cross beyond all difficulties. Bhagavad Gita 7:14.
So, this is getting very wonderful, actually. Do you have something to say about this, Bajuji?
Yeah. Can you keep that?
Yeah. It would be best if we keep the words up, because a lot of us can't really remember without
I
seeing
see.
them.
Krishna is interesting, isn't he? He played the flute and gopis came. Here he's sending the boys and they are coming, and then Krishna is saying, but what can I do for you? Well, you wanted the food, so we brought the food for you, you know. And now he is saying that you should go back, you know. So and that is also true, he's telling, because they are the wives of the Brahmanas. But the interesting point is that these wives of the Brahmanas are telling, they know that they're not going to have Krishna is not going to accept them as the lovers. So they are telling that we are willing to be a maid servants of your gopis. We will stay in the forest and we'll take the tulsi leaves from the lotus feet, and we will even serve your lovers, even we will serve them. And that's what they are trying to do. So instead of they don't want to go to their husbands because of their love.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting, because it's going opposite what is the standard in social dealings. A total opposite here. And I think someone described it. Can you picture these women, high class, refined women, coming and surrendering and wanting to live in the forest, with Krishna? So I think if we go on to the next verse, then Krishna is going to give a wonderful instruction about how it doesn't matter where you are. Of course, a pure devotee and someone in this conjugal rasa wants to be with Krishna all the time, but he's explaining how. Even though he's assuming this Aishwarya mood, he's explaining how to go deep into that even conjugal relationship with him without necessarily being with him.
As you are saying that they are willing to do anything for Krishna.
Yeah. Okay, okay, so let's go on with the next slide. Okay, and Vega read. Acharya, will you read? Thank you, Bhadraji. Acharya?
Yes. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 23, Text 30, Sarartha Darshini. Our husbands, fathers, sons, brothers, other relatives, and friends will no longer take us back. And how could anyone else be willing to give us shelter? Therefore, since we have thrown ourselves at your lotus feet and have no other destination, please, O chastiser of enemies, grant our desire. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. The wives of the Brahmanas said, from our youth, we have heard about the sweetness of your form and qualities from the flower ladies and betel nut sellers of Vrindavan. Consequently, we have fallen in love with you and become indifferent to our household duties. Seeing us deviating, our husbands have become doubtful and no longer deal with us. After this, they will not accept us in the house. With this in mind, they speak this verse. Suta refers to their married sons, and Anye means neighbors. Now the Brahmana's wives were ready to formally reject their families and neighbors. Weeping, they touched their heads to Krishna's feet and said with choked voices, as we have no other shelter, you should do something. O killer of enemies, please vanquish the obstacles which prevent us from attaining you.
Go on to the next slide because it's the same. There you go, from the Krishna.
Krishna book, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 23, Text 28 through 30. My dear wives of the Brahmanas, Krishna said, you can now return to your homes. Engage yourself in sacrificial activities and be engaged in the service of your husbands and household affairs so that your husbands will be pleased with you and the sacrifice which they have begun will be properly executed. After all, your husbands are householders, and without your help, how can they execute their prescribed duties? The wives of the Brahmanas replied, Dear Lord, this sort of instruction does not befit you. Your eternal promise is that you will always protect your devotees, and now you must fulfill this promise. Anyone who comes and surrenders unto you never goes back to the conditioned life of material existence. We expect that you will now fulfill your promise. We have surrendered unto your lotus feet, which are covered by the tulsi leaves. So we have no more desire to return to the company of our so-called relatives, friends, and society, and give up the shelter of your lotus feet. And what shall we do returning home? Our husbands, brothers, fathers, sons, mothers, and our friends do not expect to see us because we have already left them all. Therefore, we have no shelter to return to. Please, therefore, do not ask us to return home, but arrange for our stay under your lotus feet so that we can eternally live under your protection.
Okay, so Acharya, surrendering to Krishna, one never goes back to material life. And this is what they're desiring. Read the last sentence again.
Please, therefore, do not ask us to return home, but arrange for our stay under your lotus feet so that we can eternally live under your protection.
What does that mean?
This is all so far beyond me, but
how is that beyond you? That better not be beyond you.
No, it's way beyond me. This is just their ecstasy that they just can't and refuse to give up Krishna. And so they're begging, we don't want to, you said when someone takes shelter of you, they don't have to go back to material life. So they're saying, okay, return to material life. That's our home and husbands and family. So you should save us from having to re-enter that.
See, there's a very important text coming that will also describe how living in your situation and being fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is not going back to material life.
Yes, that's how Krishna, resolves their objections.
Right, that's the point.
Well,
That's
what
the
is
point.
it? Then why didn't the gopis do the same at the
We're
rasa
not talking-
dance? It's almost the same conversation. Even Acharya was pointing out the exact Sanskrit words are being stated by Krishna, and we're getting two reactions, both from him and from the wives of the Brahmins,
Well,
with the
okay.
exact same circumstances.
We've already discussed.
Yes, exactly.
We've
Go ahead.
already discussed the social differences of the society, the high-class Brahminical women going to the forest and surrendering and then starting to live in the forest, as opposed to the little gopi girls who are going out at night, leaving their material bodies with the husbands and dancing with Krishna in their spiritual body. There's a whole social order of things. And we, all of us in this material world, find ourselves in a different social circumstance.
But
And sometimes,
wasn't the go ahead.
and sometimes it's difficult to leave that position. That is not an obstacle to Krishna consciousness.
Okay, accepting that and understanding that, the gopis also did the same, exact same thing. They left their homes, they went against their brothers, they went against their fathers, they went against their sons, they went against society's norms. They were married and wives of other people, and still they went to Krishna in the forest.
Right. I don't know. I don't know.
Although the Yagyapatnis, as qualified as they are, the gopis are still more qualified.
Very good.
So that sort of enables them to
Yes.
control Krishna and flout convention to an even greater degree.
Yeah.
Plus, even aside from them being greater than the Yagyapatnis, it's different pastime, different circumstances. Krishna is teaching different things and tasting different things in different pastimes.
It appears that even on the most esoteric level, beyond all the social and beyond all those things, which are naturally involved, as mentioned by Vishwanath earlier, with that Leela Shakti influencing Krishna's mood, there's an element where I remember in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that story about Lakshmi, with Lord Chaitanya speaking with Venkata Bhatt in Sri Rangam. He said, why can't Lakshmi enter the rasa dance? Badri, you got your hand up?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, so why? What is the reason that she can't answer?
Because the Lakshmi has to follow in the footsteps of the gopis, and she
Yes.
doesn't want to give up opulence. So
Exactly.
here also these wives of
Yes.
the Brahmanas, they are from Mathura, and the ladies.
They're not
gopis-
wanting to follow the mood of the gopis.
Exactly.
That's not how they're entering that mood.
They didn't say. They said they wanted to serve the gopis.
But that's what they will come. That's what they want to do.
They said that they wanted to serve the gopis.
Yeah, they
And
want
they
to serve.
and they want to follow. They want to give up their being Brahmins' wives. They're saying, and live in the forest just like the gopis, or not even just serve the whole pastime of Krishna with the gopis in the forest.
Sure seems like their attitude is proper, doesn't it?
Yeah. So if their attitude is proper, Krishna is asking them to do something else. He is assuming a different, as somebody said it before, a different lesson.
Yeah, that's the Leela Shakti.
Chaita?
Yeah. Chattamai?
That's my.
Sorry. I'm seeing that the wives have this obligation to their husbands, and because of their loyalty to their husbands and wanting to serve them, they're being used as instruments to draw the brahmanas in, whereas the gopis were not trying to draw their spouses in to Krishna's aura. But the brahmanas really need to be taught a lesson, and they need to be taught it within the confines of social order. So they see that their wives are not running away from them. They're willing to serve them. And because of that, the impact of this Leela on the brahmanas themselves is going to be profound.
Very good. Excellent. I like that point. Okay, Bhadraji.
Love in separation.
Of course.
Vipra
course, that's-
Vipralamba.
Yeah, of course, that's definitely there. Oh, let's hurry up and get to the next verse because that verse solves all the problems.
Okay.
It really does, like the perfect verse. I wanted to send it to everyone I know. Oh, didn't we read this? Yeah, we did. Yeah, here it is. Okay, who's next? Let's see, Mandantara. This is it.
I can't see the text, but
There you
oh,
go.
I'm sorry. Okay, so text 31, Sartha Darshini. The Supreme Personality of Godhead replied, "Rest assured that your husbands will not be inimical toward you, nor will your fathers, brothers, sons, or other relatives, or the general populace. I will personally advise them of the situation. Indeed, even the demigods will express their approval." Visvanatha Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. Krishna replied, "Since you have pure love for me and are dedicated to my happiness, you should not do something which is against my intentions. Do not be stubborn like this, but return home." The wives reply, "O topmost of learned personalities, being women from aristocratic families, even the sun does not touch us. We have disobeyed our husbands, neglecting them as insignificant as blades of grass, and come a long way from our village to be near you, who are famous throughout Raj as being litigious. If we try to return home, our husbands and others won't allow us to enter the village, and out of anger, they will surely kill us." Anticipating this, thank you, Krishna answers the Brahmana's wives in this verse. "There's no use in unfounded fears. Your husbands will not find fault with you. What to speak of others, such as mothers and fathers? Why? Even if you were to intimately associate with me, which you have not done yet, they will not find fault because they know that I am the Supreme Lord of everyone. Your husbands, seeing the demigods at their sacrifice, will ask them about this matter, and they will give their approval. The demigods and all learned men of the past are in agreement that I am the Supreme Lord of all living entities."
Okay, I'm going to ask you, are you okay to read the next slide? Because I wanted to get to that one.
Yeah.
Mandantara, can you read this? Now, everyone, attention, please. This is the big
Text.
one.
32 through 33, Sartha Darshini. "For you to remain in my bodily association would certainly not please people of this world, nor would it be the best way for you to increase your love for me. Rather, you should fix your minds on me, and very soon you will achieve me. It is by hearing about me, seeing my deity form, meditating upon me, and chanting my names and glories that love for me develops, not by physical proximity. Therefore, please go back to your homes." Visvanatha Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. The Brahmana's wife said, "Then will our desire ever be fulfilled or not?" Krishna said, "Since you are asking this with your tearful sidelong glances, I will reply thus. The people in this world will not appreciate it if you stay with me. It is also not the best way to increase your love for me. Longing and separation will create more intense attraction for me. Therefore, absorb your minds in me, and you will attain me very soon."
Okay, so now this verse and this little purport let's not think of the gopis yet. But this is so profound and so important to all of us, really. It's a safeguard. That's my understanding. Patsy, do you have something to say about this? It's so
No,
profound.
you seem like you really wanted to
I was
focus
just
on it.
overwhelmed when I read this. I felt like this was the answer, because certainly even for us, we are chanting and we are doing seeing the deities, but there are some we're still behind the curtain of illusion, so to speak. So and not even only in relation to us. Krishna, as we said, comes to establish the order of society. Can you bring it back to the words, please? Anyway, this verse I feel is extremely important, and I think we have to meditate on it. It's applicable to everyone. Does anyone else have something to say? Nanda, how about you? Would you like to comment on this?
No, Prabhu, you're covering it quite thoroughly. Thank you. I just have a different comment if you want to hear that right now.
Okay, that's good.
In the verse before that, that's up on the screen, thank you. Anyway, the verse, I can't find it right this time point, but where he said that the Brahmins wouldn't criticize their wife because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That kind of struck me as odd because, thank you for pointing it out. Yeah, your husband's, okay. So, but they didn't know him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they wouldn't give him food.
Right,
So
at that point.
You know that he's the Supreme Personality of God.
Well, Krishna in their hearts, I read it as Krishna in their hearts when he's explaining this to them, he already adjusted their hearts.
Okay.
There's also the element that will come up next week when the women go back, when the wives go back, the husbands see their expressions of ecstatic love, which are also described in the verses. And thus they understand their own and become very regretful. So it's a simultaneous Krishna in their hearts directing them, as well as their own attitudes transforming and changing that come about. And Krishna, being the Supreme Lord, knows that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And he's also saying that they'll see the demigods and ask them about this matter, and they will give their approval. Right. That one also kind of blew my mind because Brahma already stole the cows, and Indra's about to make a big stink in a few chapters, but still they know what's going on and know who he is. So it's a bit ambiguous.
Or maybe different demigods.
Maybe.
Or their remembrance comes and then they forget it, which happens to a few of us. Thank you. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thakur, and then Acharya. Thakur.
Inconceivable, as we say from time to time, and that is why Krishna Leela is so sweet, because in other Leelas there are only certain things happening in Krishna's Leela, and the reciprocation we know is devotees, in the sense that he said that I'll make. He knows past, present, and future, so he knows what's happening everywhere. So that's very nice. But I'm saying Krishna's Leela is so sweet. The kind of things that happen doesn't happen in all the other Leelas. Inconceivable, as we say from time to time. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, Murari. Acharya.
Yeah, another thought I had about how Krishna instructed and treated the Yagyapatnis is that our purpose is not, in a sense, is not to enjoy with Krishna, but to develop our love for Krishna and serve Krishna. And although, like in the Rasa dance, the gopis neglected this instruction and did enjoy with Krishna, but every single day, the gopis are crying and lamenting because, their in-laws or their husbands are restricting them from visiting Krishna, or Krishna's in the forest with the cowherd boys, so they can't enjoy. And Mahaprabhu's prayer, you could make me brokenhearted by not being present before me. So enjoying with Krishna may be there, but that's not our goal. It's to love and to serve Krishna.
Good point.
Right. Maybe that's one of the things about the wives. They came to be and enjoy with Krishna. So that has to get a little bit more purified. Is that correct?
Yeah. We still have one more slide, Srila Prabhupada's
Okay, so-
comments on all this.
Okie dokie. Madhurya, you want to finish up for us? Madhurya Leela? Okay, Madhurya ji. Okay. Nanda. Nanda, you want to finish up?
Sure, thank you. Krishna book, 10th canto, chapter 23, 31 to 33. The Supreme Personality of Godhead replied, "My dear wives, rest assured that your husbands will not neglect you on your return, nor will your brothers, sons, or fathers refuse to accept you. Because you are my pure devotees, not only your relatives, but also people in general, as well as the demigods, will be satisfied with you." Krishna is situated as the supersoul in everyone's heart. So if someone becomes a pure devotee of Lord Krishna, he immediately becomes pleasing to everyone. The pure devotee of Lord Krishna is never inimical to anyone. A sane person cannot be an enemy of a pure devotee. Transcendental love for me does not depend upon bodily connection, Krishna said further. But anyone whose mind is always absorbed in me will surely very soon come to me for my eternal association.
Wow. So, any last words of wisdom here?
Oh, Srila Prabhupada has all those wonderful words of wisdoms, that's for sure. And if we can just absorb them, then we'll be on the right track.
Okay.
It's interesting how he closes it up, isn't it?
Yeah,
You know, he's describing, you go back and you do this, and then you'll be with me eternally.
yeah, yeah.
He's not just talking about his Boma Lila. He's
And-
explaining this
right.
is their proper activity, and they will come to him by
Yeah.
satisfying him that way.
This is a paraphrase for the verse. Go
Uh-huh.
back to that verse for 1 second. There. Now to read this verse, if you will.
For you to remain in my bodily association would certainly not please people in this world, nor would it be the best way for you to increase your love for me. Rather, you should fix your minds on me, and very soon you will achieve me. It is by hearing about me, seeing my deity form, meditating upon me, and chanting my names and glories that love for me develops, not by physical proximity. Therefore, please go back to your homes.
This is like the all-time instruction.
The all-time instruction, but you know what I just was thinking of? I was thinking how Srila Prabhupada gave us that same instruction about himself, but everybody who has had Prabhupada's association has to admit that it sure was pretty blissful.
It was blissful. But yeah, it was blissful. But we certainly have Prabhupada's association if we hear from him constantly. Because the best way to associate with Srila Prabhupada is to hear from him, is to read his books. That's what he offered to the world.
Takamari has his hand up.
Okay, Thakur.
Yes, sorry. So there's a word, it's licentious. That word, Krishna described. I think licentious is, I'm not sure I have the correct, but it's there. It's in one of the verses. They say, he is regarded as being licentious.
Same trust.
Licentious is somebody that very lusty. It's
Yeah, that was in the purport.
yes, it's somewhere there. Let me see.
Right here.
Licentious.
Licentious.
Licentious, licentious. This word, yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So you were saying that even more reason why they would have to go back, because since you're saying that you are very famous throughout Raj as being licentious. Yes. So I just came back say that's interesting using that word at that point in time.
Well,
So why do I have to go back? Because yes, yeah.
licentious. Yeah. Well, go on, Bhajan. Thank you,
That's
Mari.
interesting.
I mean, look at all of you. joined to Hare Krishnas, the families were not happy, but you continued and they are happy with you. That we gave up everything, all the bad habits gave up, and now pure bright faces, continuing serving the Lord, and all the relatives and the friends, they are happy with what we're doing. So this is actually what happened. That's what Krishna is saying to wives of the Brahmanas. Don't worry about it. Your relatives, friends, and husbands, they're not gonna, they will not be inimical towards you. They will be okay with you. Go. And because Krishna is within their heart also, with the husband, so he's gonna inspire them. See how the Krishna is acting within the heart and externally, how is he acting?
What a journey, huh?
Yep.
What a journey to give you a divine love trip for sure. No one loves like
Yeah.
Krishna does. Thank you, Bhadraji.
All righty.
Did you wanna? My husband's gonna.
No, we
describe
don't
the
have time
charts?
for
We don't
that.
have time.
Too late.
Okay. Well,
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
And then
you.
this chapter will continue when the ladies go back home. We'll read about that.
Oh
Hare
boy.
Krishna.
Your husband say, to hell with our being born. God."
Jai.
Vanchikopatarubhyascha,
Vanchikopatarubyascha,
kripa
sindhurevcha,
sindhuvekcha,
patitanam
pavaneshcha,
pavanebhyo,
Vaishnavibhyo.
Hari Hari Bolo.
Thank you
Have
very much, everyone.
Have a good week and happy Purnima.
Jai. Happy
Happy
Gaur Purnima to
Gaur Purnima.
everyone.
Happy
Yes.
Gaur Purnima. Hare Krishna.